You got that something sweet that don't come easily. It's what I need tonight. I came here for love, for someone to hold me down. I won't give it up. No, I want you to reach out. I came here for love. I came here for love.
Hi, Christopher. It's really nice to meet you.
It's fabulous to meet you as well, Nicole.
Okay, so why did you want to be a human book?
I've always felt it's very important to share your story, no matter where you are in life. I've gone through a lot of things in my life, and it's a huge thing for me to kind of share that in hopes that even like a small piece that somebody may be able to relate to, and just make them feel a little more comfortable and a little more themselves in life. So it's always very important to me to be open about myself and about my story and stuff, because you never know who's going to relate to that.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about me. So currently working as a store manager, so nothing too fancy there. In my spare time, I've been doing drag for about 9.5 years now. So oldest brother of 6 siblings. So a big family, very close with a lot of my family as well. Bit of a mama's boy at heart. Very proud father of 2 kids, and a dog dad to far too many animals, we'll say that. I'm a painter, I'm a writer on the side as well, I enjoy that. And I'm also a musician, I'm a singer, so I'm going to be starting to record some music as well in the next couple of weeks, so that's very exciting.
Well, that sounds awesome. You sound like you have a lot going on. But what was your life like growing up?
Growing up, so I was raised by my mother and my grandmother. I didn't really know my father too well until I was about 13. And then I actually went to live with him throughout my teenage years, which was great because I got to know him and my stepmom, and I became very close with my stepmom too. Grew up in a very small town just north of Barrie. I think our population was about 500 during cottage season, so that kind of speaks to how small that was. A pretty simple life. A lot of siblings, so that was always fun. We were kind of like the town gang. We all ran together, which was great. Had some ups and downs in life, I'll say that. Childhood, growing up with a single mom, she really did her best and was really there. And being the oldest too, you really have to step up to the plate on a lot of things. Her and I relationship has really grown in the last year, which is amazing. So we're in a very good place now, which is awesome. But I will say, for my childhood and my teenage years, I went through a bit of that teenage angst, we'll call it. It took me some time to come back around, but I'm in a good spot now. So.
So was your family supportive of, especially like doing drag? Was your family supportive of that?
I'll say I was very fortunate there. I've always had a very loving and accepting family and a very open family. My aunt or 2 of my aunts, funny enough, actually, are also part of the community. So when I did come out to my family, it was more of like a, yeah, okay, and I was like, okay, well, I just thought we had to have a conversation about that. And they're like, no, it's okay. We love you. It doesn't really change anything. So I was always very fortunate. Much of my family comes to like a bunch of my shows on a regular, which is amazing. And I have a very supportive family on that one there. So I'm very fortunate on that. And I count my blessings on that all the time.
Oh, that's amazing, because I know that a lot of others in your situation don't have that kind of support. So that's actually amazing. When did you start? You said you started doing drag about 9.5 years ago. Was there anything kind of like events leading up to that introduced you into the drag world, or was it, because I know like some boys will dress up as princesses growing up, that sort of thing, and it kind of just goes from there, or is it something like completely different, like just a performance type thing? What was it like for you?
I think for me, it was always something that was gonna happen. I'm a firm believer in like what's meant to happen is gonna happen. I was one of those little boys wrapping that towel around my head and having the big hair. And I grew up obsessed and listening to with my mom and my grandmother to ABBA and Cher and Shania Twain, and I knew every word to everything and knew every dance move. So for me, I think it was just a very natural thing. There was no really big event that took place. I was running an wedding and events company in Ontario. So I was very involved in the community and working at a lot of these nightclubs and places like that. And I was always just fascinated by it. And so I had a friend who kind of was like, well, why don't you try that? Like, you're a very confident person, but let's see what this brings out of you. And I was like, sure, why not? Let's try it. And it just kind of stuck and then just felt very natural.
Awesome. So how did you come up with the name? Is it Devoit?
Devoit O'Virtue.
Okay.
I was actually given that name. There's a queen in Toronto, Carlotta Carles, fabulous queen, a Newfie gal, and her and I have been friends for a very long time. So the first time I ever got to perform on a big stage in Toronto, she was introducing me. And at the time, I was performing under the name Anorexia. And she goes, no, it's not original enough. We need to come up with something. I was like, okay, we'll brainstorm it like afterwards in the dressing room. And she introduced me on stage as Devoit O'Virtue. And I was like, what? She's like, it's your new name. Just run with it. And it just kind of stuck from there, to be honest. I really liked it. Something very original. So I was like, yeah, I like that. It has a ring to it. So it just stuck.
Well, that's awesome. So is Devoit O'Virtue the only drag persona that you have, or do you have others?
So I do more female illusion under Devoid of Virtue. So I have a character. I don't do much for impersonations. I have done impersonations of Pink, Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, that kind of thing. But I did actually, funny enough, initially start out, I was doing for about 2 years before I started doing female illusion. I was actually performing as a bio king under my name, Chris Ritchie. And so I started doing that first, and then so just kind of progressed into drag.
Oh, cool. So is Devoit based like maybe loosely on a celebrity or a fashion icon or somebody that you kind of pulled ideas from, or is she kind of like a mismatch?
She's a little bit of a mismatch. I think Devoit has a lot of confidence that I'm a very confident person in my life generally, but Devoit kind of gives me a little bit less of a filter, we'll say. And I can kind of get to be, it's another side of me that I don't get to expose every day. I get to play with that feminine side of me. It's not necessarily based off of one particular celebrity or anything like that. I think I've kind of picked and chosen and cherry picked little things that I like. But a big part of it, I will say, Devoit's based off of, as odd as this may sound, my mother and my grandmother, actually, the two strongest women I've ever known. And just really kind of a take no crap kind of ladies. And I was always very admiring of that. So that's just something I've kind of taken in.
Cool. So you said that you're kind of a confident person all the way through. What would be the biggest differences and maybe the biggest similarities between Christopher and Devoit O'Virtue?
I'll say in my day-to-day life, I try as Christopher. I lead a very professional, almost scripted life, if that makes sense. I've got kids, I've got the family, I've got all that. So there's kind of like a thing and a routine to everything that has to go on. And it's always very much been that way when I was an event planner too. Like everything in my life is very scheduled into the book, and this is how it has to go. Devoit kind of really opens that up for me where I can kind of just let loose. and just let it flow and let be. So I think the Devoit side of me gets to be a little more of the fun side of me, a little more laid back side and not so rigid within a box.
Now, does Devoit ever cross over into Christopher's life? Do you ever find aspects of her coming in?
I'll say it's funny. I say now that I'm a very confident person. When I first started doing drag, I was came across as a confident person, but in the back of my head, not really, because again, everything was very scripted. I knew who Christopher was. I knew what I had to do and how to do that and how to present myself. And I had to keep a very professional face and a very this face and a very that face. I think because of Devoit, because I've been doing drag for so long, I think anybody who says it doesn't kind of like blend together is just a little naive, because the two very much do become the same, especially when you're doing it this often. So it's really brought out that more confident side in me, and I can kind of carry that through my everyday life now too, where I can kind of like hold my shoulders back a little more and my head a little higher than I used to be able to.
Now, what advice would you have for somebody who would like to be a drag queen?
Do your homework. That's a big thing, especially some of the seasoned queens, we'll say. They've been there, they've gone through it. A lot of the queens who are starting out nowadays, I mean, are very fortunate. They have YouTube and all these tutorials on Facebook and TikTok and all that. Back when I was starting, we didn't have much of that. And there was a lot of trial and error. So we went through that very much ugly duckling stage. But I was very fortunate. I surrounded myself with a great group of not only queens, but kings, queer performers, bio kings, non-gender queens and kings, who had been doing this for a very long time. And I listened and I absorbed and I asked questions and I took notes and put it into practice. So I think respecting it goes in everything in life, but respect your elders and ask your elders. Look to them for wisdom. They know what they're doing. They've been doing it, so.
I think that's good advice, actually, for everybody all around.
Now, and not always the best advice I can take. I can give it well. I can't take it all the time.
Now you said you started off as a bio king. Can you explain what that is compared to a drag queen? Because I've actually never heard that term before.
So bio kings and queens are, so for myself, I was a male performing as a male. And so a drag queen would be a man performing as a woman, or a drag king is a woman performing as a man. A bio king is somebody who identifies as male and performs as male, or a bio queen is somebody who identifies in their everyday life as a female and performs as a female.
Okay, and now I know that sexuality doesn't really play a role in a drag queen. Does that? Can anybody be a drag queen or a drag king? Like, it doesn't really matter whether you're gay, straight, or anything in between?
Absolutely. Some of the best queens that I've ever performed with are straight men, and some of the best kings that I've ever performed with are straight women. And then too, with that said as well, I know some amazing drag queens who live their lives as trans women, and so they are a woman performing as a queen, so they would be considered a bio queen. And again, like, just some of the best queens. So yeah, anybody can do anything really, especially within the drag community. It's more of a artistic expression. I mean, it almost like be saying, like, only men can paint and only women can write. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's so fluid, and it's an art form. So anyone can do anything within the drag community. And I'll say it's one of the communities that I've been so lucky to be part of, that's so accepting to that as well, and just so open to anyone doing anything and trying anything.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. Now, I know that this profession in particular can be very dangerous. I know that there's probably some safety issues. What do you do to stay safe?
It took me a while to learn how to do things safely, if that makes sense. The queer culture and LGBTQIA2+, can be a very scary place sometimes to live in the real world, being a member of that, especially then within drag. I had an event actually happen that I was running a wedding down at the Four Seasons, or not the Four Seasons, so sorry, the Fairmont Hotel in Toronto, the Royal York. And I had a show prior to that. So my team was there taking down. I went to get in the cab, still had face on, but like had changed back into, we'll say, boy clothes. The cab actually stopped outside of a club on King Street. And a group of guys actually pulled me out and I got assaulted. Ended up, went to the event, took that event down, and then my team brought me to the hospital actually afterwards. I had 2 fractured ribs and a concussion. So I learned then, stay in numbers. As naive as that advice can sound, we live in a day and age where everyone would like to think things are very accepted and it's a very safe place. Unfortunately, not everybody is that open-minded yet. We have a long way to go still. So now, when anytime I have an event going on or I'm going to a show or anything like that, I always kind of make sure I have my partner with me or friends or family there that are coming to and from with me kind of thing, just to be safe, because you can never be too safe with things. I do try to really talk about that stuff a little more openly because it's an unfortunate reality. And so I think it's important for those stories to be heard, so that, because we live in a day and age and we all get a little almost cocky in like our confidence of like, yeah, no, we're fine. Like everything's fine. Yeah. We live in Canada. Everything's happy and safe.
Right.
And it's not always the case. So even as safe as we are and as fortunate as we are, we still need to be careful, right? So
I agree with you. And I think because when you do drag, you're dressed as a woman and you've also lived life as a man. Do you see the social differences? Are you treated differently as a woman than you are as a man?
Absolutely. I'm even treated differently within the community, depending how I'm presenting. If Christopher goes out to the club or to the bar or something like that, not really as noticed as much. I can kind of stay under the radar with my friends, wait in the line to get in like everyone else and pay my cover like everyone else and stuff. And then if I go out in drag and full Devoit, you kind of get a little bit of special treatment, especially within the community. I think drag queens are held to such a standard, and we're such pillars in the community at times that we're admired. So you very much see the difference. Absolutely.
Oh, I wish it was like that with me. Do you ever, is drag more like a job, an event, a performance? Do you ever just go out as Devoit on just on a night out just to kind of see what it's like, or do you keep it very separate?
When I initially started doing drag, the two were very blended. I think there was a big point, especially in that kind of first year of doing it. And I'll have to admit to the attention, like in that first little while, is like, oh, this is great. This is awesome. Everyone wants to talk to me, get in a picture with me. As you get into it a little bit more, for me, it's become more of a profession, more of a professionalism thing and a career and a job. So I do very much try to separate those things now. Especially as you start to learn your drag and you elevate it and grow too. In the first little while, again, when we're all ugly ducklings, we can do things a little halved, so it's a little more comfortable. The further you go down it, the more work it becomes and the more you're putting into it. And you start looking at a budget on things and stuff as well. So initially, I did very much, I would go out all the time, and if I was going out, it was in drag, and that's how it had to be, and that's how I was doing it. Nowadays, very much different. It is very much more now a professional thing.
Okay, so when you're preparing to become Devoit, can you kind of walk us through some of the steps that you take to get there. Because I know that when I'm putting on makeup, it's probably a little bit different. I don't have to, hide a 5 o'clock shadow or anything like that. So I assume that there would be more steps. Can you maybe just kind of walk us through a little bit of how you get ready?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a bit of a process. I generally, when I know I have a performance coming up, I try to prep things the day before. So I'll pick out what outfits I'm doing, what music I'm doing. What music I'm doing does very much change what outfits, what hair, what makeup, what look I'm doing. So I try to have all that lined up because day of, I do try to get very in the zone with things, we'll say. And yeah, so the process day of, shave, shower, moisturize, all that, regular skin routine, shave again. And then for putting on makeup, two things, you got to think about little things like you said, the 5 o'clock shadow. So I've got to block out like in my beard area, certain things I've got to color correct with that there. To do my makeup, I always try to give myself 2 hours for my face and about another hour after that for getting everything on and ready to go. So if I have an event that I'm going to, I always try to give myself about 3 to 4 hours before actually I have to leave the door to go to said event. There's the packing of it, the different shoes for the night of, because you can't do a different outfit without different shoes. And then too, it comes to things, if I'm doing like a specific wig and I want to style a wig, that I'll start doing prior in the week to that there, because that can take several days to style a wig, between washing, setting it. A lot of my wigs, I have some human hair, some synthetic hair. So those vary too on how I handle those and different things like that. So yeah, it's a lot bigger process than people think, and there's a lot more into it.
And has it taken you a while to kind of cut that down a little bit, or has it always kind of taken you that long?
I will say, once I really get to it, it's funny. I think if I was to really sit down and just do my face, I could probably have it done in about an hour. I like to give myself that time of kind of enjoying the process of it. I have really cut it down. It used to take me about 4 or 5 hours just to do my face alone. And again, that goes with the trial and error stage of things, and you're really learning and you're really growing. You learn what your face is. You try to watch a video and you're like, oh, this is how you like contour this, or you do this. And then you're like, oh, my face is totally different than that one. That doesn't work for me. So over the years, I have really trimmed that down. Yeah, I think I could do my face now between about an hour, 45 minutes in there, but I do enjoy doing it too, though. So I like to kind of drag it out a little bit and kind of really like feel it. If anyone's ever seen Drag Race and you see like Alyssa Edwards like really feeling herself in the mirror, if any queen says they don't do that in the mirror while they're getting ready, they're a liar.
Do you have, I hate to use the word expiration time, but kind of like Cinderella, where you get ready and then you know that you have this long before either your makeup starts to melt or your 5 o'clock shadow starts to come through? Or is there kind of like a window, a time frame where you're like, okay, I can only do this until this time and then I got to get home?
Absolutely. I'll say it's probably about like my second or third number, and then things start cracking, and you got to run in that dressing room and touch up. I don't get to really do a night out with like a little clutch. I always bring a little clutch with me because I'm like, oh, it's cute when I'm walking around. But in that drag room or the dressing room, I've got like a full like duffel bag full of makeup plus my suitcase full of stuff, because like you have to touch up, especially when you're performing. No matter how well you seal this in, she cracks and she melts. So yeah, there's a lot into that. So it's generally, I always go, whatever my first set is, and that set's probably going to be about 4 or 5 numbers. After that, I'm pretty much rushing into that drag room to be all like, okay, let's touch this up. Let's try and fix this up. So yeah, there's always a timeline on it for that.
What do you wish more people knew about drag?
I wish more people would know, because I still get this question very often, the difference between drag and trans. And I think that's a really big thing that people need to talk about a little bit more, because it's a question that everybody asks. I'm a little more fluid in my life. In my day-to-day life, I do tend to wear like heels and more feminine flowy shirts and stuff on the odd occasion. However, I do live my life as a man. So drag is what I do, not what I am. Trans is who you are as a person. And there is a difference. And you can be trans and do drag, and you can be trans and not do drag, and you can do drag and not be trans. And I think that's the biggest thing to like kind of like tell people. Because I get that question quite a lot of like, oh, it must be so fabulous to live your life like this. And I was like, oh, I don't. Like this comes off at night, and like this wig gets hung up, these come out, and like I go to bed as a boy. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that trans and drag are two very different things, even though they can cross over.
Right. And now there's a lot of talk, especially lately, about pronouns. And I know, like, obviously it's very individualized. Which pronoun do you prefer? Does it change from day to day? Does it change specifically when you're performing?
So for myself, in my day-to-day life, I do go by he, him, and as a man. I have been known to go by they, them as well, because I am a little more gender fluid when it comes to that. However, in drag, I do go by she, her. So pronouns for me then are very important. For me, after I get in full face and I'm ready and I'm out and I'm presenting as female in drag, it's almost, I think when somebody goes like, oh, he or that guy, it's almost a little insulting to the craft of it, right? So for me, that's how I like to identify, yeah. So they do change very much. So in my day-to-day life, more he, him, and then in drag, she, her. Again, I'm a little more fluid. Like I've got some friends, it's funny, even out of drag, like a lot of people who I've met when I'm in drag will refer to me as Devoit. And I've got some people, now when I'm as Devoit, nobody refers to me as Christopher, which I appreciate. But I put too much work in to be called Christopher.
Yeah,
but,
right? That's right. Respect.
But I've always told everybody, you know, you need to make people feel, there's a certain pronoun that you want to go by, you need to make people feel, it's your job to make people feel comfortable enough to ask you, what would you like to be referred to you as pronoun wise, and be open to that. And you can't just assume that everybody's going to know right off the bat and then get mad about it. And I think that's the big thing too, of like, it's part of our job to make people feel comfortable asking those questions rather than, like putting people down for it, making people feel guilty about asking.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time, because you did mention that you did have some trials and tribulations growing up, what would you say to your younger self?
I think it's let the people around you love you. I very much kept a guard up for a very long time. And it's only been recently that I've really kind of been like diving into that, we'll say. But I've always kind of kept a guard up. I've always tried to be that strong shoulder and that strong friend and family for everyone and hold it together. I never used to really let people in, even when they wanted to be there for me. So I think the biggest thing I could have done to make a lot of things easier for me was let them in and let them love me.
I think that's really wise, actually. And I wish a lot of younger people would listen to that kind of advice now. So going a little off topic, tell me 3 really cool things about you.
Well, we talked about drag, so I mean, I think that's one of them. I can't, like, that's got to be one. I'm really proud of my drag, and I really love it. So I think that's one of them. And then, kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, I'm an artist, kind of in all forms, painting, writing, singing. Music's a really big part of my life. And I'm actually a really big family guy. Like, I really love my family and my friends, and they're all really important to me, and I'm willing to go probably a little too far at times for people. But I think, my love for my family and my friends is something that I really am proud of and I really hold. So I think that's something kind of cool about me.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
My 5-year goal, I've actually really thought about this quite a lot. I'm looking, actually, funny enough, at purchasing a school bus to convert into a schoolie. And so my 5-year goal would be actually there's a little property that I'm in love with. way up north. I'd like to have a little hobby farm, a little sanctuary rescue hobby farm, with my little tiny house that's off the grid, and all my little animals and my family, and yeah, just be living kind of a simple life, and popping in the city once in a while to put Devoit out, and yeah, just really enjoying my life there.